welcome to episode 79, or what I should maybe rather call the autumn 2020 version of the Fluffy Fibers podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so glad you're here and you're able to take a bit of time to relax and just chat a little bit with me. I'm really glad as well that I'm able to make some time today to record. My name is Isabelle and you can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Fluffy Fibers. You will find the show notes for the podcast at fluffyfibers.wordpress.com, and you will also find my French blog at lapetitemanufacturedisabelle.wordpress.com. So I do hope you're all doing as well as possible in these very, how shall we qualify 2020? Troubled, complex, aching. Anyway, all of those times we are all impacted one way or another. So I do hope you're able to cope and you're not impacted too much, too severely. As I was saying in my very first few words of the introduction, I think I should stop, using numbers for the podcast, like episode numbers, and rather, because I feel typically, even though I would love to record more, typically I tend to record an episode per season, more or less, and so I think I should rather use just, my Autumn 2020 episode or something in the title, because really recording more, even though again I would love to, hasn't been really doable for me in the past few years really, and it's definitely not getting any easier at the moment. My work has been greatly impacted, and so I work even more than I used to. So, which I'm not complaining about, first of all, because I do have a job and I do love my job, so I feel incredibly fortunate in this respect, even though it does mean that I have less time to make and obviously less time to record as well. So, all that being said, of course, since last time I recorded was in the summer, in I think late July or just early August, I think. Obviously, it's been 3 months roughly, and so I do have quite a few things to share with you, especially as regards sewing. I definitely haven't been knitting as much for several reasons. The major one being that I typically knit in the evening when the children are asleep, and over the past few months, ever since France went into the first lockdown in March, my littlest one, my little boy, who's now 4, he has had a bit of trouble falling asleep. So it means that by the time he's asleep, I just went to bed myself. I tend to get up really early as well to work, and also to practice yoga before the children get up in the morning. So typically by the time my little boy is asleep, I want to go to bed as well. So it's been getting better ever since school started again in September. So he's now going to sleep falling asleep like about 1 hour earlier. So I have found a bit more time to knit actually. So if you don't know, France went into its second lockdown in late October 2020. So today, as I'm recording, it's the 3rd of November 2020. And the main difference from the first lockdown in France is that the children this time are going to school. So obviously it means Seb and I, who know are both working from home, we have more time to work than we did in the first lockdown. So also the children from age 6 and over have to wear masks now to class, So I've been sewing quite a few masks for my daughter over the weekend as well. So yeah, so this also explains why I'm recording here and not in my sewing turret. Well, first of all, you haven't seen my sewing turret in a while because my sewing turret became my office during the first lockdown, and it still is. So yes, so now typically what used to be my craft room is my office, and I'm so fortunate to have this space that is isolated from the rest of the house, of the flat I should say. We have a very open space, kind of flat really, so you know, the living room, the offices, our usual offices, everything is in the same room, which is the room I'm recording in here right now. So it's really good that we have this separate little room, tiny as it is, my sewing turret. So we completely changed things around in this office, in this sewing room. So it now has all of my work. So my sewing machine now is in the living room, on my desk table downstairs. And so Seb is currently having conference calls in the office, and so I'm recording here in the living room. So I hope you don't mind this. I know it's not as cozy as my sewing room. I do adore this little room that we have at the top of the flat. Yeah, so yeah, but you know, still, I'm we're very lucky to live very comfortably in our flat here in Montpellier. So for those of you who may be new to the podcast, I'm French and I live in Montpellier in southern France. So yes, so today's episode will include my cup of tea, a handmade wardrobe, quite a bit of sewing, a little bit of knitting, and that is all. And I will cover, you know, my upcoming project in each of the segments as well. So for my lovely cup of tea today, I'm drinking from my absolutely favourite mug or cup, which was handmade as a gift by wonderful Danny of Little Bobbins. Hello Danny, if you're watching. So yes, this is an absolute treasure for me. If I had to live on a desert island, this mug would certainly be part of it. So yes, and in this lovely, very comforting mug, because it is handmade, and it has this lovely texture to it, if you can see. Yeah, I absolutely love it. So it has this lovely texture to it. So, and we will be talking more about this mug later in our knitting segment, if you can believe it. But in this, I'm drinking my current tea obsession. So I don't know about you, but I tend to go by phases with teas, and depending on the year and the season, I tend to have like my one tea crush, I should say. And so this is a tea I discovered this autumn, which is from Le Palais d'Été. And so it is an infusion actually. So it is called Queen's Garden. And I think it's actually bilingual here, so you can read. So it's not organic. I tend to favor organic teas, but this one is not organic. So yes, so it's very, very warming, comforting, and really sweet kind of infusion, because it has almond, apples and cinnamon in it, so it really tastes like a, I don't know, apple cinnamon cake, you know, that would be made with some almond flour. So it's absolutely wonderful. So yes, it's been quite a revelation to discover this. So I just bought my second package of it. I just actually finished this bag to brew this particular tea, so this particular mug. So yes. So for a handmade wardrobe today, I am wearing an outfit that really warms my heart, that really just makes me really cheerful, because I think it's so cute. So this is the Cleo dress by Tilly and the Buttons. So it's a pinafore dress, super cute, which I made out of I think organic denim. And yeah, yeah, so yeah, and as you can see, that you have the actual buckles. And underneath I'm wearing an Agnes top, also by Atelier, and the buttons. The Agnes tees are just my favourite. So I have quite a number of these tees in my handmade wardrobe because they're just those that fit me best, I think. So yeah, so this is one of them. It's made in organic cotton jersey, which may appear black. It's not quite black. In fact, it's a very, very dark grey, but it may appear black on the screen. And so over this, I am wearing, I just love this cardigan so much. So the design of this cardigan is Love's Promise by Agata Mackiewicz. So this is my third version of this pattern, which is very unusual for me. It's very rare that I knit a design, especially a garment, several times because, you know, knitting a garment takes a long time, and there are so many, obviously, garments that we want to try out. There are so many designs that have queued. But this cardigan just is absolutely perfect in my wardrobe because, so it is open front, it doesn't require that much yardage, so that when you're a bit short on yarn, it's perfect, and that was the case for this yarn. And it has this little, hopefully you will see that, but it has this little lace detail at the sides, which I absolutely love. It's just this tiny little delicate touch, you know. So yeah, I just love the way it fits. I did modify some of the measurements from the original pattern, like I widened the sleeves somewhat. I may have added some short rows as well as the back so that it sits really well onto my shoulders and it stays put. But yeah, and I also made long sleeves for this version. And so I knit this out of a very, very special yarn, which is BFL Gotland non-superwash British wool, dyed by Maison Corlène. So I can't remember if I showed this to you in a podcast episode, you know, in its finished form. But I absolutely love this very dark, moody green. I love Maison Corlène's dyeing. I think their colours are so deep and soulful. And so yeah, but when I ordered this, they only had 2 skeins in stock. It was a heavy fingering weight yarn, so 350 meters, 350 meters per 100 gram skein. So yeah, so this, and I used every last bit of the yarn, so this is pretty much exactly 700 meters. So yeah, so I actually wear this a lot because it's very lightweight, but at the same time, this particular wool blend is extremely warm and very comforting. Again, it really feels like a light hug. It's a light layer, but at the same time, it's really, really warm. So, to start with, for a bit of sewing, I wanted to start with a couple of garments I made for my daughter, actually. So one at the end of August, actually, and I made this for her to go back to school in. And this is called the Lenox dress, by a company that is a pattern company that is Little Lizard King. So yes, so it is a very simple bodice, which is lined. I think actually it wasn't lined in the pattern, but I lined it. And yeah, and a very full circle skirt. So yes, so these were my daughter's requirements. She wanted a skirt that twirls, so of course a circle skirt. And so yes, but she also is not, my daughter is not really one for frills, so she wanted a really plain bodice, and so that's what I did. So the alterations I provided were to, so the back is supposed to be buttoned down, but because my daughter has a very, very long braid, her hair would have caught on the buttons. So instead I added a zipper, as you can see. And the other alteration that I made was to completely line the bodice. So, yeah, let me turn this inside out actually so you can see. So I completely lined the bodice with white cotton. So So here you go. This is the inside of the dress. And yeah, I really like this. I really like a lined bodice in a sleeveless dress. I think it's such a neat finish. So yes, and the fabric for this, okay, let me turn this inside out first. Okay, and the fabric for this is some poplin, cotton poplin that was printed in southern France and designed by Lise Tailor. So yeah, it's one of Lise's fabrics. So you may recognize the print because she also released that print last autumn in dark blue with the dark blue backgrounds and multicolored, fruits and leaves and flowers. And so this time she released it with this peach background and these coral prints, which is so cheerful. So yeah, this looks absolutely wonderful on my daughter. So I also made her a little, so I have been wanting lately to use up all of my fabric. You know, I tend to have so much left over, like so many remnants. They take up a lot of space, and I just think it's such a shame really that they're not used up. So typically over the past few months I've been wanting to just try and use up all of my remnants, you know, as soon as I finish sewing the main garment out of the fabric. So the first thing I made was this cute little scrunchie for her with this cute little knot. So this was made from a French tutorial from the Joli Lab website. So yeah, I'll add the link to the tutorial in the show notes, but I'm sure if you don't speak French or read French, I'm sure you can find similar tutorials in English, because this is very trendy at the moment. And so yeah, so since my daughter is always wearing her hair in a braid, she wears that at the end of her braid when she's wearing this dress. I also made myself a couple of masks out of this fabric, and I really enjoy wearing them because first of all the fabric is very cheerful, but also it's very soft. So these are definitely among my most comfortable masks to wear. And since masks are now compulsory for children at school, last weekend I also made my daughter a couple of masks out of this fabric. So the other thing I made for my daughter is one of my most recent makes. I made this a couple of weeks ago, and it is the lovely Grand Ours jacket by Ikatee. So you may recall this because I made this is the third time I'm using this pattern. So I made this in a terracotta fabric, the same fabric but in a terracotta shade for my son last year, and my daughter loved it because it has these little rabbit ears which are so cute. And so in the spring, during the first lockdown, I made her a raincoat version with some waterproof coated cotton, which is very sweet as well. And so this time I made her the autumn version because we were very lucky and were able to go to the Cévennes mountains last week for a few days, for 4 days. At the time when we decided to go, there were absolutely no talk of lockdown in France. The lockdown was decided very suddenly. And by the time we came home, lockdown was in place. We came home on the Friday when lockdown started. So yeah, so I'm saying this because I had this vision in my head of the two children being, hiking in the Cévennes together, foraging for, all their acorns and chestnuts and and leaves, and just being, both of them in these adorable little jackets. And so this is exactly what happened, and I'm so glad that we made these memories before being locked down again. So yeah, I'm very grateful that I was able to make this before we left. And this is such an easy pattern as well. Honestly, like preparing the pattern and cutting out the fabric, I think that takes longer than actually sewing all this together, especially with this fabric, because you don't finish the seams with this fabric, so and you don't have any finishing touches to do. So yes, it's extremely simple to make. I do feel that this is a little too open, the neck is a little too open, so I will be sewing the buttons a little deeper into the side here, so that it closes more onto her neck. But apart from this, yeah, she loved wearing it. So yes, so that is it for what I made for my daughter. I haven't made anything for my son this autumn so far, but that will change, as you will see in my upcoming projects. So for myself, I made myself a number of things. So, and yeah, the first one was really in late summer, and it was a very, very simple top. But, you know, in order to make the fabric shine, really stand out. So this is a very simple sleeveless top, which is the Tokyo top by Atelier Scammit. Joanna is a French designer. All of her patterns are bilingual in French and English. Ikatee's patterns as well are bilingual. And so, yes, so yeah, hopefully you can see this really well. I just love this so much. So yeah, so for the finishing of the neckline I added my favorite finishing, which is, you know, using bias binding as a facing, actually. So yeah, so I absolutely love making these finishes, and yeah, and actually for the French speakers amongst you, a French maker, a professional seamstress, has created a tutorial on her Instagram stories as a highlight, as a permanent highlight, which is extremely helpful, because since she sews professionally, she has ways to make this, you know, the process very smooth and quick and perfect as well. So that's very, very useful. So I've been really enjoying using that her technique to finish my necklines or my sleeveless tops or dresses with this technique, the armholes, I mean. So yes, so I made this specifically to go to be part of an outfit which I shared on Instagram with my very long estuary linen skirt that I made last autumn. So what I've been making lately has really been to complete some, you know, outfits that I had in mind, and make them whole. So for instance, this is part of it. This cardigan as well, as I shared on Instagram, was part of an entire outfit with a printed skirt and a top, an Agnes top actually as well, all in green shades. And in the same spirit, something I also made recently was to go with this blouse. So I made this blouse last winter. I absolutely love wearing this. I just absolutely love the shade. It looks a little too warm on the screen, but it's really a deep raspberry. So this is the Sew Over It, is it the Susie top? Oh dear, I can't remember. Poussebo blouse, maybe? Yes, that must be it. So yeah, so I love wearing this, it's so elegant. I love the shade. And so when I made this, I planned a skirt to go with it, because if you can see, if you look closely, the darker leaves here, the darker flowers, they are not printed in black, they're printed in khaki, so very dark green, warm green. And so what I did was I made a skirt to go with it, so a khaki skirt to go with it, so which here is much too light. Let me remedy that a little. Yeah, that's better. So yes, so I made this khaki skirt, and I purchased the fabric last spring, again with a view to make it with this, but it only happened this autumn. So I haven't shared this on Instagram yet, but it's a really darling little skirt. It's actually also a Sew Over It pattern. It's the Ava skirt by Sew Over It. So very, very fast make. Although I did add some pockets as per the instructions, and the pockets, the instructions for pockets by Sew Over It are a bit complex, but they do make for a lovely finished pocket in the end. So you know, it's definitely worth it. Honestly, if I were to make this again, especially in this kind of fabric, I would not add the pockets because they add a little bit of bulk, because the fabric itself is rather thick. So it's cotton gabardine. Yeah, I actually regret putting the pockets in, because if I put my hands into the pockets, the skirt is completely distorted because it's quite, you know, tight fitting. And so yeah, and also they can, you know, sometimes you can kind of see the outline of them, you know. So yeah, if I were to make this skirt again, which I may well do because I really love this little number, I would not add the pockets, and it would be even easier and faster to make. So it's a lovely skirt. Obviously, you know how much I love Sew Over It patterns. I love the style, I love the finishing details. So you have some dots front and back to shape the top of the skirt. I added an invisible zipper. I don't think they have you put in an invisible zipper actually. I think they have you put I don't know, I can't recall, but I just added a zipper my usual way. It seems to be puckering on screen, but it's actually not that bad. But yeah, I'm really happy because it really is invisible here. And I added this little snap at the back as well. So yeah, so another outfit that I'm so glad that I finished, but obviously at the moment, I mean, I finished this 3 weeks ago, I think, a month ago. And I wore it only once, and obviously at the moment in lockdown, you know, for work, all my work happens online via screens, and so obviously you see the top of me, so, you know, not very useful, but I know it's here and I love wearing it, so it just cheers me up very, very much. I did make it longer than the original pattern because I'm just more comfortable with slightly longer skirts. However, I did make it shorter than I usually do, so it's, I think, a couple of inches above the knee, which it is a little short for my habit, really, but I actually really love it. This skirt as well is shorter than what I usually wear, but I love it. But I think it adds a nice variety to my wardrobe actually. So my next make has to do with one of the directions I'm wanting my craft to take at the moment, which is, you know, focus on cozy makes. So makes that will, you know, that make our stay at home nicer and more enjoyable. And so I made a night dress. So here it is. And so it all started with this amazing fabric, which is printed with all the British breeds of sheep. And of course you will have recognized the unmistakable style of the wonderful Katie Green. Hello Katie, if you're watching. So Katie is, you know, the queen of drawing, you know, sheep, and all, you know, especially British sheep, and I absolutely love her style, which is both very, very comforting, very, very happy, but also very, very personal. I love how each of these sheep has its own personality. I absolutely love that about this. So yes, I made this night dress. So as soon as I saw the fabric, I knew I wanted to make either pyjamas or a night dress out of it. So I purchased 1.5 meters of the fabric, and so it became this night dress with pin tucks and this beautiful eyelet lace, and I threaded some grey ribbon through the eyelet so that it matched the... Because what I love about this fabric is that the sheep look you know, penciled in, which is absolutely lovely. So it's not black, it's really charcoal, like pencil grey. So yeah, the ribbon is a way to highlight this. So yes, so it's actually a very simple pattern. The design is Butterick 6592, which includes a variety of nightwear, pyjamas as well, and I definitely want to make the pyjamas as well sometime. It had been a while since I'd sewed a pattern from Butterick, and I don't know, I just didn't find the instructions to be super clear. Maybe it was just me, you know, I've been really tired, and but I don't know. But anyway, eventually I just did my own thing. So I just you know, used the pattern, which is excellent, and then just finished it my favorite way. So again, you have this you know, bias binding finish on the inside, which I don't think is part of the, I can't recall what they said to finish, how they said to finish the armholes, but that's how I went. Same thing here. So if you can look at the finish here, you have I did finish the edges with bias binding before I sewed on the trim on the outside. So yeah, and I did ruffle the trim before I sewed it on, so it wasn't pre-ruffled. So yeah, so the trim comes from Toto Fabrics downtown in Montpellier. So yeah, I really enjoy this shop. The sellers are super kind, and yeah, and they do have not that much in terms of trim, but they do have a nice selection, and this was exactly what I was looking for. So yes, I absolutely love wearing this to sleep in. It's absolutely blissful because the cotton lawn is so very soft and fine, and I just love it. I love wearing night dresses. I think they're so comfortable because they don't ride up your back when you're sleeping. So yeah, I definitely, this has helped me have you know, sleep better at night actually. So that's really lovely. So yes, so something else I made very recently, which I shared very recently on Instagram, is something that just made me so happy to make, and it is my Olivia blouse by Joli. So this is part of a box, so which is a mystery kit that you receive, that you can receive each month, even though here you can't end your subscription at any time without any fee. So I typically don't do mystery kits because I'm very finicky with my fabric choices, my design choices, the colors that suit me. So I typically don't do them. But so first of all, Joli Lab is a French company based in Lyon, just like Lise Tailor, and they have developed kits for a year and a half, I want to say. And I love each and every one of the kits that they offer on their websites, honestly. Each of them is so lovely. I did sew one of them during the first lockdown, which was the cherry blossom blouse in a beautiful white embroidered cotton. So first of all, I knew there was a very little risk here. And secondly, they did post an Instagram picture which didn't share much about the box to keep the surprise, obviously, but it did share the colors that the print would have, and it did share that it would be a blouse. And I always, blouses for me are perfect for work, and so I never say no to a new blouse, really. So so I did I did do the plunge and subscribe to the box without knowing obviously what I would get exactly, and I was so happy with what came. So it all came in a lovely little fabric bag, but also made in France, and I love these because they can, you know, double as knitting project bags. Or also, I don't know about you, but I love using them when I'm traveling to put some clothes in or underwear in. So it arrives in this lovely pouch. The one thing I regret about this is that you don't have, like, the pattern pieces are not in a pattern envelope, so it makes it a little tricky to store. And then you have everything you need for this, you know, the fabric, the thread, the button. So this is the result. It's a really easy to make blouse with these lovely little ruffles here, which are in fact not ruffles but flounces. So yeah, and so I did lengthen the sleeves. The sleeves are supposed to be 3/4 sleeves, but I did lengthen them to full length sleeves. So you have this elastic at the sleeves. And so again, you know, yeah, and this is actually part of the instructions to finish the neckline with biased binding in the same fabric. And I added the little label here at the back. So yeah, so something else I did differently is the back. So you're supposed to add a button at the back here. So you have this keyhole opening. And I didn't add the button because, like my daughter, I have long hair, and if I wear my hair down, it catches horribly on this kind of button. So, and because it's very long, it's just impossible to unravel from the button. So instead, I just added a little. So what happened is that I actually had planned to add the button, but then I realised that I could put the blouse on, you know, without needing this opening. So what I did is that I added a little tab of bias binding at the back to close this up. So I really don't think you can see that much because the fabric is so busy, which is great, which is fine. So yeah, so I absolutely love this. I've been wearing it. Actually, it would look really nice under this. I should have worn this actually to record. It would look really nice under my Cleo dress. And again, still in the spirit of using up my fabric remnants, I cut out part of it to give to a friend because I was sending her a gift anyway, as you'll see later. But then I had a large, like a long rectangle left, and so I made a hair scarf. So just to show you, what I did is, so it's a bit scrunched up obviously because I wear it really tied up, but yeah, so here it is. So it is this width, and actually it was double the width, but I sewed it right sides together and turned it out because since the fabric is in fact white on the outside, on the inside, I just thought it would look better this way. So it's in fact self-lined, and it does taper at the ends so that it makes this cute little bow at the nape of the neck. So I've been wearing this either with my hair down or with my bun, my usual everyday bun, and just, you know, with this and just the ends here, you know, at the sides like this. So I don't know. It's just been cheering me up to wear this very cheerful, you know, lively print. Yeah. Oh yeah, and the other thing I did differently was the finish on the flounces. So hopefully you will be able to see this here. But I actually finished the flounces with a rolled hem in black. Yeah, hopefully you can see this. But yeah, so you're supposed to assemble 2 flounces, which I did, but you're supposed to assemble them right sides together and turn them inside out. But I just felt it would make a little bit of bulk, you know, just at the seam here with the seam allowances. So instead what I did was that I assembled them, like I pinned them wrong sides together, and I just, you know, assembled them with this rolled hem all around. I just think it's more lightweight this way. So yeah, my lovely Olivia blouse. Yeah. And I forgot to say, for the Olivia pattern, everything in the kit is made in France. So absolutely everything. So it's created, designed in France, the fabric is printed in France, and all the materials are made in France as well, which is really neat, I think. And finally, the final little thing that I made was for a friend, a gift for a friend. And yeah, she's a really, really good friend of mine, on whom I met on Instagram, and we did meet in Montpellier a few years ago. Our sons are exactly the same age. Like, my son was born on her due date, and her son was born on my due date. So I absolutely love everything she makes. And I also sometimes test knit for her. So she is Marie, who is Le Nid de la Linotte on Instagram. She has a French blog as well. She is incredibly creative, and she tends to make adorable little crocheted dolls or toys or animals. And so I wanted to make her a little companion for these. So this started because I saw Mrs. Moog on Instagram, who's Leslie, who also I love her feed. I love her. She also paints and draws, and so she sews a lot of project bags that she sells as well, which are beautiful, like applique bags as well. And so recently she made these adorable little bears. And so I just fell in love with them, and so I purchased the pattern on Etsy. And so the pattern, I can't recall who the pattern is from, but I will share it on the screen, obviously. And so and so I made this little bear out of wool felt, and I knitted him a little scarf as well, which it was so sweet to make. And so yeah, obviously I don't have the bear with me, but I will be, obviously have been sharing pictures on the screen as I'm talking. And yeah, so I just felt, we all need a pick-me-up at the moment, and I just felt like sending her a pick-me-up for the current times we're living in. So yeah, it just made my day, and I'm definitely planning on making at least one or maybe two of these bears for my children as well. So yes, so for my upcoming sewing projects, again, as I was telling you, I really want to focus on making a cozy home, since we have to spend so much time in it, right? So in the spring I purchased this beautiful fabric by Lise Tailor, which is cotton poplin. It is in fact the same print as my blouse that I showed earlier. So it is her Grace print. And so this has a beautiful mauve background with still the same khaki, actually, the same khaki print, and then this deeper rosewood colour. And so I initially purchased this to make a dress, but when it arrived, two things happened. First of all, I realised it may not be the most flattering on me, because I need a bit of contrast between my garments, the colours that I wear, and my skin. And secondly, I just felt the fabric was so lovely on its own. I just loved the print and the colour scheme, and I just felt I wanted to gaze at it, And so I have decided to make a quilt out of this fabric, actually. So in the spring I also purchased this fabric, which roughly matches, at least I think, it does not match the print, but I think it is like a darker version of the background. And so I'm planning to make a very simple quilt. I'm probably going to use the tutorial by Alex Collins. So Alex Collins has also a lovely podcast, and she is a bag maker, a creator in England. She screen prints her own fabrics to make her own bags. And she also shared on her blog a tutorial for making a simple quilt. So I really want this to this fabric to shine. So I'm just going to use this as the surface and this as the backing and the bias binding as well, and just quilt simple lines, perhaps diagonal lines, all over the quilt. So yes, this is one of my very next projects. And then the project that I have is Christmas gifts for the children. So they have requested elf costumes. So they are very, very into elves at the moment. And so I did purchase this fabric with my daughter. So for my son, we chose this fabric. So this fabric comes from Toto. And so we have purchased this fabric, which, as you can see, has these sparkling stars on it, silver stars. So it's the kind of shade that is wonderful on my son. And for my daughter, so she wanted this shade, which is a very dark. So hopefully you can see the little stars. I'm not sure it's focusing actually. Yeah, it is. Okay, so yeah, so she wanted this shade, but they didn't have enough in stock. They only had 1 meter in stock, and so we picked this as well to go with it. So the design I'm going to use is actually one I already used to make my daughter a witch costume 3 years ago, I think, which she still wears because I made it quite long and large, and it has an elasticized waist, so she can still wear it really fine. So it's I'll put the pattern envelope on the screen, but it's a very simple pattern, but which, because of its simplicity, lends itself well to a variety of costumes, really. So you can make a pirate costume out of it, or an elf costume, or a witch, or a princess costume. So yeah, they're very, very excited about this. We also need to try and find some wings as well to go with that. But that will be their main Christmas gift this year. I'm really hoping for a completely handmade Christmas plus books this year. We'll see, but I'm really hoping for that. I know my daughter has already started on her handmade gifts this year, so that's very exciting. So yes, these are my upcoming projects in terms of sewing. And so now let's move on to a bit of knitting, and it will be much shorter because honestly I haven't been able to knit that much. So something I made, which was actually a test for my friend Marie, le nid de la Linotte, is this cute little headband in colourwork for my daughter. So hopefully you can see this well. So yes, so this is a really lovely little knotted headband, but with this colourwork, which is absolutely lovely. So I used 2 balls of Dererum Natura Ulysse, which is the sports weight, non-superwash woolen span yarn by Dererum Natura. If you've watched previous episodes of the podcast, you know how much I love Dererum Natura. So it works really, really well for colourwork because of the woolen span yarn. So yeah, I loved making this. It was so fun, and my daughter loves it. So the colours I used are sage, sauge for the background, and quartz for the little dots. So yeah, I'm really wanting to make myself one of these as well. This is just so perfect for winter here. So something I am almost finally done with is my Margot cardigan. So I started this, I think last time I podcast I had just started this, like knit the very first few rows. And I just blocked it. It just needs the buttons sewn on. So this took me ages to knit, and here it is. So I think I'm actually going to put it on so you can see it better. So Margot is a design by Anna of avec Anna. Again, bilingual pattern, and Yeah, so it's a cardigan with this lovely lace detail also for the raglans, and yeah, so the shades does not appear true to color at all on the screen. It's a really deep warm purple, so it appears a bit more maroon on the screen, but to me it really is more purple than it is maroon. So it's a gorgeous shade. I have been wanting to knit this shade for ages. So it is dyed by Simone, who is Yarn by Simone, and she dyes the most beautiful colorways. And she has a selection of yarn that is non-superwash, and this is one of them, because this is a blend of non-superwash merino and silk. And it's a light fingering, so you have 600 meters per 100 skeins. So I used 2 skeins for this. I have a bit left over actually. So yeah, but I love this cardigan. I love the graceful, like, round neckline, which you can't see really well with my Cleo dress underneath, but still. So yeah, I made the sleeves quite long as well. I alternated the skeins obviously throughout the design, but it was really long to knit for me. First of all, because again, I didn't have that much time to knit, but also because it does knit at a small gauge. It knits at 26 stitches per 10 centimeters. So yeah, but it's really lovely to have again a very fine layer in my cardigans, and I made this specifically to match a few of my clothes, my hand sewn clothes. So yeah, you will see that this when I'm finally done sewing down the buttons. Yeah, and I do have the buttons, so here they are. Actually, I bought them at La Mercerie in Montpellier, and I needed 8, and there were 9, and he just gave me the whole tube because it was all that was left in the box, which was really nice actually. So this is the shade, and again it looks a lot more warm red on the screen than it really is in real life. But in any case, you do see that it matches. It is a perfect match for this. So yeah, again, I may not be fiddling too much with the colors when I edit, because it can look a bit funky. But yeah, I'll try maybe and post a picture. That's the dishwasher that just finished. I'm not sure how much you heard these beeps, but yeah, the dishwasher just finished its work, its job. But yeah, it is in fact a very dark, deep purple, warm purple, and the buttons match perfectly, so I was really happy about that. My next and final finished project in terms of knitting is rather exciting, because it is a sock design that I just finished creating. So here are the socks. So as you can see, they have this very light texture on the cuffs and the leg, and then on the top of the sock as well. And so yes, so this design originated because within the French community at the moment, a couple of makers, one of them being Marie again le nid de la Linotte, and the other one being Birou Legem, they launched this knit along which is called Socks in the Mag. And the idea is to knit a pair of socks that matches one of your mugs, and then to take a picture with the socks rolled into the mug. And so this is really fun, like again cheerful little knit along that we're doing again to find a bit of joy in the everyday at the moment. And so I knew obviously that I wanted to use my favourite mug, which is Dani's handmade mug. And so I found this yarn in my again at La Mercerie in Montpellier, which is the local haberdashers here. So the yarn is Lang Super Socks 6 ply, so it's a DK yarn, which I find is a pretty good match for the mug. But then I wanted, of course, to recreate all the little dots and the beautiful texture of the mug. And so I decided to create this design, because you don't have that many designs for DK socks on Ravelry. And so I created this very simple design, which I'm calling the biscuit pattern. So yeah, these will be called the biscuit socks ou les chaussettes biscuit, because they do look a bit like biscuits. And so yeah, this will be a free pattern. This will be my gift to you, again, to help you, you know, create cozy times for yourself in knitting up these DK socks, which are really easy to make and knit up really fast. And also, obviously, you know, it's so nice to have like thicker yarn, you know, socks knit in thicker yarn to stay home as well. I love knitting DK socks to work from home. So hopefully they will help you a little, you know, they will just cheer you up a little. This free pattern will cheer you up a little, but yeah, it's my gift to you on those difficult times. So the pattern is currently being test knit. So at the moment I only wrote it in English because I know this may seem really strange because I'm French. Obviously French is my first language, but I just knit in English. I really learned knitting through English patterns, and it's just more natural to me somehow. So I just find also the knitting, like linguo, the writing style of knitting patterns, I find it's just more intuitive in English than in French. And so for now the pattern is only in English. I started writing up the pattern for DPNs because that is how I knit my socks. I absolutely love knitting with DPNs. It's just something that, I don't know, the gestures, the cute tiny needles, everything just makes my heart sing. I actually knit both of these socks last week during the 4 days that we were in the Cévennes mountains. So this was my project there, which is lovely because it's very portable. So I actually was able to carry this around as we were hiking and to hike at the, you know, to knit at the top of the mountain, which is you know, a memory I have stored in me. You know, a very precious memory that I have stored within me for the months to come. So yeah, so I did start by designing the pattern, the instructions for DPNs, but I just also wrote down the instructions for circular needles. So I'm actually launching a new. So I did launch a call for test knitters on Instagram, and thank you so much to everyone who responded. It's so lovely. And so, but at the time I only had written the DPN version, so I may launch a call for circular needle for knitters who knit their socks with circular needles. I do have one lovely friend who is testing the circular version at the moment, but it might be good to have a couple of other test knitters for this. And I'm also going to include a couple of sizes. Also, these were just so fun to design. I know I don't knit many socks. I don't knit socks very often because I do love making garments, but I just love the engineering that goes behind a sock design. So it was very, very exciting to create my own, you know, decide what I wanted to do for the heel, for the toes, you know, how I wanted to distribute the pattern. So especially again, as there aren't that many DK patterns out there, so, and I really do love knitting DK socks because they're so cozy and also they're faster to make. I had such a lovely time just designing them. I do love a good puzzle, but yeah, I was surprised by how much I enjoyed designing these, really. And again, all this came because I wanted socks that paid homage to this lovely mug, and you know, to participate in the knit-along socks in the mug. And then I just realised I wanted to create my own design, and then I thought, well, if I'm designing it, why not share it, you know, for everyone to enjoy, and for everyone to be able to knit a pair of biscuit socks as well. So yeah, I do hope you will like these socks. I really hope you enjoy knitting them if you do choose to download the pattern. So yeah, so look out for these. They will be released really soon. This is definitely upcoming really shortly. So yeah, this is all of my knitting. And in terms of my upcoming knitting projects, I think my Margot cardigan, which was just endless, never-ending, just burned me out a little bit. So, and I tend to get a little, like, I can tend to get very excited about garment knitting because, you know, they're part of my wardrobe and everything. But then I tend to get stressed out a little by it as well, which is my own mindset. But I tend to set myself this pressure, you know, just, you know, which is completely silly because knitting is supposed to relax me, but I tend to set myself these goals of having this cardigan in my wardrobe, and I do have a lovely wardrobe of, you know, full of hand knits and hand sewn items, and everything else at the moment is just the cherry on the cake, you know. So I have decided to slow down my pace and to stop knitting garments for a little while and to focus on small projects. So DK socks, for instance, which again are much needed at the moment with our, you know, working from home. So I do want to knit a pair for Seb, probably for Christmas, of DK socks. And I do have a couple of pairs here that are all ready to go for myself of DK yarn for socks. This beautiful, beautiful skein of Hedgerow Yarns, which I absolutely love her. So I tend really not to buy, you know, sock yarn with nylon anymore, but I just can't resist Hedgerow Yarns. They're just so lovely. I just can't resist Jane's beautiful speckled yarn. So this is on a really, really warm base background, and then you have all of these beautiful speckles. So again, DK yarn, and it came with these. It came with a mini as well for the heel. So I already separated them into two bowls, which are actually rather falling apart, to make sure I didn't run out on the second heel, actually on the second sock. So yes, so these are all of my plans. Yeah, and other plans include making small toys for the children, probably for Christmas as well. Again, I want to focus on small, you know, rewarding projects that are, you know, that doesn't add a lot of pressure on my mind at the moment, really. And yeah, I've just been wanting to knit like small, cheerful things at the moment. So that is all, my friends, for today's episode. I fear it will be rather long to edit and to watch for you. I do hope you don't mind, but yeah, I do feel this seasonal format is really more just in keeping with what I'm able to do at the moment. So yeah, I do hope you don't mind the pauses between episodes, and secondly, I do hope you don't mind the longer episode as well. So thank you so very, very much for watching, friends. I do hope you enjoyed this episode. I do hope you are finding some joy in your everyday. I'm sure, like me, you are feeling so incredibly fortunate that we have our crafts, our making, to keep us afloat on these times, to, you know, like our anchors in these troubled seas. So yeah, I do hope you find some small joys into your making every day. So until next time, friends, do take really, really good care of yourselves, and I hope your making brings you joy. Bye bye.